Hi, I'm C.W. Nicol. My friends call me Nick. I'd like to talk about the first book I ever published in America, Canada, and the UK, which was called From the Roof of Africa, and we are republishing it now. When I was 27, after several Arctic expeditions, for some reason or other, I was invited to go to Ethiopia to establish a national park in the Simien Mountains, which is in the north on the border of Tigray. And beyond that, of course, you get Eritrea. I was 27. It was a very, very wonderful but very, very tough time. I was faced not only with bandits and poachers, but also rampant corruption in the government, even in the police, and funds that were supposed to come to the national park were being funneled off for high officials and so on and so on. But we did manage to get the national park established. And afterwards it became the first UNESCO World Heritage Site, which was wonderful. But when I left Ethiopia, it was blatantly obvious to me that a revolution would come and that there would probably be civil war. Of course, fighting bad guys in the mountains, I and the rangers who worked with me, we risked our lives, but there were 2 assassination attempts on me when I went into the towns too. So with great sadness, I decided to leave Ethiopia, and I went back to Japan at the age of 30, and I went to fisheries college, and I went to Japanese school again, and I practiced karate, and I wrote From the Roof of Africa, which was published in 1972. Now, what I perceived as my failure to protect the Simien had been a huge weight on my heart for many, many years. And probably it was one of the reasons that I decided to put all my money into making a beautiful little woodland in the northern part of Nagano, which is where I now live. Now, the Japanese government has put quite a lot of money and effort into trying to support wildlife conservation in Ethiopia. Somewhere along the line, somebody said, hey, the first game warden of the Simien Mountain National Park is a Japanese citizen, which I am. And that got out, and in 2013, at the end of that year, several Ethiopian officials came from Addis Ababa to Nagano, and we talked. And as it happened, I had documents from 1967 to 1970, photographs, maps, pictures, my logs, and I was able to tell them what the forest and the wildlife and the people were like back then. So I was invited back to Ethiopia and given a tremendous VIP treatment. But what really gladdened me was that the people of the Simien even remembered the name of my dog. I ended up writing a 20-page confidential report for the Ethiopian government, laying out the steps that I feel are necessary to save the Simien Mountain National Park from being dropped from the UNESCO list. After that report, again, officials, and I mean government ministers and former game wardens and head of the wildlife agency and so forth, have come back to Japan, to Nagano, to our little woods. And I was thinking, had I spent all that money to have a beautiful apartment or a house in Tokyo, nobody would have come to visit us. When you do something to protect nature or culture doesn't have to be on a grand scale. You do what you do. It can be a small wood, but it's like a beautiful little stamp on a big parcel. People look at it. I know now that the people of the Simien want me to return. I told the people when I left, I felt that I had been a failure. And when I was talking this way to the Ethiopian people, there were tears in a lot of eyes, including mine. But then the head of the wildlife agency said to me, "Nick, you were not a failure. You gave us a map, and we're trying to follow that map." The passion I have for the Simien is as vibrant in my heart now at 75 as it was when I was 27. Please read my book and think about what conservation means, not only to Ethiopia, but to the whole of Africa and to the whole of the world. C.W. Nicol, from the Roof of Africa.